October 29th, 1899, Volume 2, The Formation of the Interior Dwelling for Jesus. My adorable Jesus continues to come, but this morning, as soon as he came, he took me in his arms and carried me outside of myself. Being in those arms, I comprehended many things, and especially that in order to be in the arms of our Lord freely, and even to enter into his heart with all ease, and to go out of it as the soul best pleases, and not to be a weight or a bother for blessed Jesus, it was absolutely necessary to strip oneself of everything. Therefore, with all my heart, I said to him, "My dear and only good, what I ask of you for me is that you strip me of everything, because I see well that in order to be clothed again by you and live in you, and for you to live again in me, it is necessary for me to have not even a shadow of that which does not belong to you." And he, all benignity, told me, "My daughter, the main thing so that I may enter into a soul and form my dwelling is total detachment from everything. Without this, not only can I not dwell in her, but not even any of the virtues can form its residence in the soul. After this, once the soul has made everything go out of herself, then do I enter, and united with the will of the soul we build a house. The foundations of it are based on humility, and the deeper they are, the higher and stronger the walls will be. These walls will be built with the stones of mortification, cemented with the purest gold of charity. After the walls have been built, I, like a most excelling painter, plaster it and form the most excelling paintings, not with lime and water, but with the merits of my passion, represented by the lime, and with the colors of my blood, represented by the water. This serves to protect it well from rains, from snows, and from any shock. Then come the doors, and in order for them to be solid like wood and not subject to woodworms, silence is necessary, which forms the death of the exterior senses. In order to keep this house, a guardian is necessary to watch over it everywhere, inside and out. This is the holy fear of God which guards it against any inconvenience, wind, or anything else that may threaten it. This fear will be the safeguard of this house, which will cause one to operate not out of fear of penalty, but out of fear of offending the master of this house. This holy fear must do nothing but do everything to please God, with no other intention. Then, this house must be adorned and filled with treasures. These treasures must be nothing but holy desires and tears. These were the treasures of the Old Testament, and in them they found their salvation. In the fulfillment of their vows, their consolation. In sufferings, strength. In sum, they placed all their fortune in their desire for the future Redeemer, and in this desire they operated as athletes. A soul without desire operates almost as dead. Everything is boredom, bother, rancor, even virtues themselves. There is nothing that she likes, and she walks, almost crawling, on the path of good. All the opposite for the soul who desires. Nothing is a weight for her. Everything is joy. She flies and finds her tastes in the very pains. This because there was an anticipated desire, and the things which are first desired are then loved. And as one loves them, one finds the most pleasant delights in them. Therefore, this desire must be entertained even before this house is built. The ornaments of this house will be the most precious stones, the most expensive pearls and gems of this life of mine, always founded upon suffering, and pure suffering. And since the one who dwells in it is the giver of every good, he places in it the endowment of all virtues. He perfumes it with the most gentle odors. He makes lovely flowers give off their fragrance. He makes a celestial melody among the most pleasant resound. He makes one breathe an air of paradise. I forgot to say that one must see whether there is domestic peace, and this must be nothing but the recollection and silence of the interior senses. After this I continued to be in the arms of our Lord, and I was all stripped. In the meantime I saw the confessor there present, and Jesus told me, but it seemed to me that he wanted to play with me to see what I would say, "My daughter, you have stripped yourself of everything, and you know that when one is stripped, someone else is needed who takes care of clothing him, of nourishing him, and who gives him a place where he can stay. Where do you want to stay? In the arms of the confessor, or in mine?" And as he was saying this, he did the act of placing me in the arms of the confessor. I began to insist that I did not want to go, and he insisted that he wanted it. After a little bit of arguing, he told me, "Do not fear, I keep you in my arms." And so we remained at peace. October 29th, 1900, Volume 4. The most essential and necessary thing in a soul is charity. After going through a few days of privation and of silence, this morning as Blessed Jesus came, I said, "It shows that my state is no longer your will." And he, "Yes, yes, rise and come into my arms." At these words I forgot about the painful state of the past days, and I ran into his arms. And since I could see his side open, I said, "My beloved, you have not admitted me to suckle from your side for some time. I pray you to admit me today." And Jesus, "My beloved, please drink as much as you like and satiate yourself." Who can say my contentment, and with what avidity I placed my mouth to drink at that divine fount? After I drank to my fill, to the point of having no more room to contain even just one more drop, I detached myself. And Jesus told me, "Have you satiated yourself? If you haven't, feel free to keep drinking." And I, satiated? No, because the more one drinks at this fount, the more one's thirst increases. But since I am very limited, I am incapable of containing more. After this I saw other people with Jesus, and he said, "The most essential and necessary thing in a soul is charity. If there is no charity, it happens as to those families or kingdoms which have no rulers. Everything is upset. The most beautiful things remain obscured. One can see no harmony. Some want to do one thing, some another. The same happens in the soul in which charity does not reign. Everything is in disorder. The most beautiful virtues do not harmonize among themselves. This is why charity is called queen, because she has regime and order, and she disposes everything. October 29th, 1903, Volume 5. When the soul has the character of the purpose of creation impressed within herself, Jesus repays her with part of the celestial happiness. This morning my adorable Jesus made himself seen in my interior, as if he had incarnated himself in my very person. And looking at me, he said, "My daughter, when I see the character of the purpose of creation impressed in the soul, feeling satisfied with her because I see so well accomplished the work created by me, I feel a duty, or rather not a duty, he immediately added, because in me there are no duties, but my duty is a more intense love to repay her, advancing for her part of the celestial happiness. That is, manifesting to her intellect the knowledge of the divinity, attracting her with the food of eternal truths, amusing her sight with my beauty, making the sweetness of my voice resound to her hearing, to her mouth my kisses, to her heart my embraces and all my tendernesses. And this corresponds to the purpose for which I created her, which is to know me, to love me, to serve me. And he disappeared. So finding myself outside of myself, I saw the confessor, and I told him what blessed Jesus had told me. I asked him whether it was according to the truth, and he said to me, yes. Not only this, but he added that the divine speaking could be recognized well, because when God speaks and the soul relates it, one who listens not only sees the truths of the words, but feels a movement in his interior, which only the divine spirit possesses. October 29th, 1904, Volume 6. The chain of graces is linked to persevering works. All evils are enclosed in lack of perseverance. After I struggled very much, blessed Jesus came for just a little bit and told me, "My daughter, when the soul disposes herself to do some good, be it even saying one Hail Mary, grace concurs in doing that good. So if the soul is not persevering in doing that good, it shows with clarity that she has no esteem or consideration for the gift received, and she makes fun of grace itself." How many evils are enclosed in this way of operating? Today, yes. Tomorrow, no. I like it, I do it. It takes a sacrifice to do that good. I don't feel like doing it. It happens as to that person who, having received a gift from a gentleman, today receives it, but tomorrow sends it back. That gentleman, because of his goodness, sends it once again. But after he has kept it for some time, tired of keeping that gift with himself, he rejects it again. Now what will that gentleman say? It shows that he has no esteem for my gift. Should he become poor and die, I don't want to have anything to do with him any more. Everything is linked to the way of operating with perseverance. The chain of my graces is linked to persevering works. So if the soul makes some escapes, she breaks this chain, and who can assure her that it will be linked again? My designs are accomplished only in one who attaches his works to perseverance. Perfection, sanctity, everything goes along united with it. But if the soul is intermittent, her operating without perseverance, like an intermittent fever, renders the divine designs vain, dissolves her perfection, and makes her sanctity fail. October 29th, 1907, Volume 8, True Love and Sacrifice. As I was in my usual state, I found myself outside of myself, and I saw baby Jesus, who, placing himself on my bed, beat my whole body with his hands, giving me also some kicks. After he beat me well and trampled me, he disappeared. As I returned into myself, I could not understand the reason for this beating, but I was content, remembering that I had drawn closer to Jesus to be beaten more. Then, while feeling all beaten up, I was surprised again by blessed Jesus, who, removing the crown of thorns from his head, himself, drove it into mine, but with such force that all the thorns were driven into me. Then, placing himself in my interior, almost in the act of moving forward, he told me, "My daughter, how are you doing? Let us go higher. Let us go higher in chastising the world." I felt frightened on hearing that I was uniting my will to his and going higher with chastisements. And he added, "That which I tell you, you must not forget. Remember that some time ago I showed you the present chastisements, as well as those which I was to send. And you, presenting yourself before my justice, pleaded so much for mankind, offering yourself to suffer anything, that it was conceded to you, as alms, that instead of doing 10, out of regard for you, it would do 5. This is why this morning I beat you, to be able to give you your intent, that though having to do 10, I do 5. Then he added, "My daughter, love is that which ennobles the soul and gives her possession of all my riches, because true love tolerates no division of any kind, even though one may be inferior to the other. What is mine is yours. This is the language of two beings who really love each other, because true love is transformation. So the beauty of one removes the ugliness of the other and renders him beautiful. If one is poor, I make him rich. If ignorant, I make him learned. If wretched, I make him noble. One is the heartbeat, one the breath, one the will in two beings that love each other. And if any other heartbeat or breath wanted to enter into them, they feel suffocated, breathless, and torn, and they become ill. So true love is health and sanctity, and one breathes a balsamic and fragrant air, which is the breath and the life of love itself. But it is in sacrifice that this love is more ennobled, more strengthened, more confirmed and expanded. So, love is the flame, sacrifice is the wood. Where there is more wood, the flames are higher and the fire is always greater. What is sacrifice? It is to empty oneself out in the love and in the being of the beloved. And the more one sacrifices himself, the more he is consumed in the being of the beloved, losing his own, and acquiring all the features and the nobility of the divine being. See, it is so also in the natural world, though very imperfect. Who acquires a name, nobility, heroism? A soldier who sacrifices himself, who exposes himself in battle, who lays down his life for love of the king, or another who stands arms akimbo? Certainly the first one. The same for a servant. Who can hope to sit at the table of his master? The faithful servant who sacrifices himself, who lays down his life, who has greater care for the interests of his master than for his own, out of love for his master? Or the servant who, though he fulfills his duty, when he can shun the sacrifice, shuns it? Certainly the first one. The same for a son with his father, for a friend with his friend, and so with all the rest. Therefore, love ennobles and unites, and forms one single thing. Sacrifice is the wood to make the fire of love grow. Obedience, then, orders everything. October 29th, 1910, Volume 9, The 3 Weapons to Defeat Disturbance. As I was in my usual state, it seemed that Jesus made himself seen for a little, and I said to him, "Life of my life, my dear Jesus, during these past days I have been disturbed, and you who have been so jealous of my peace, have not had a single word for me in these past days to give me that peace which you so much want. And he, my daughter, I was scourging and destroying cities and burying human lives. This is why I have not come. On this day of respite, for then I will take up the scourge in my hand once again. Immediately I have come to see you again. You must know that if I did not reward the things done with purity of intention, the upright works, and everything that is done for love of me, I would fail a duty of justice, and all of my other attributes would remain obscured. Therefore, these are the three most powerful weapons to destroy this poisonous and infernal slobber of disturbance. So, if the necessity to chastise should force me not to come for a few days, and this air of hell wanted to invest you, put these three weapons against it: purity of intention, work of victim, upright and good in itself, and sacrificing yourself for me with the sole purpose of loving me. And you will defeat any disturbance and will cast it away into the deepest hell. And with your indifference, you will turn the key so that it may no longer be able to get out and molest you. October 29th, 1914, Volume 11. Every act in the divine will is an act of the divine will, complete and perfect. I was lamenting with blessed Jesus because of his privations, and my poor oppressed heart was in delirium. Speaking nonsense, I told him, "My love, how is it? Did you forget that I don't know how to be without you, nor can I? Either with you on earth or with you in heaven. Do you perhaps want to remind me of this? Do you want to be silent, asleep, troubled? Then do so as long as you remain always with me. But I feel that you put me out of your heart. Did you have the heart to do this?" But as I was saying this and other nonsense, my sweet Jesus moved in my interior and told me, "My daughter, calm down. I am here. To say that I put you out of my heart is an insult that you make to me, when I keep you in the depth of my heart, so tightly that all of my being flows in you, and yours in me. Therefore be attentive so that nothing of my being which flows within you may escape you, and that each one of your acts may be united with my will, since my will contains completely accomplished acts. One single act of my will is enough to create 1,000 worlds, all perfect and complete. I do not need subsequent acts. One is enough for all. Therefore, in doing the simplest act of uniting it with my will, you will give me a complete act. That is, an act of love, of praise, of thanksgiving, of reparation. In sum, you will enclose me completely in this act, or better still, you will enclose me and give myself to me. Yes, only these acts united with my will can stand before me and be worthy of me, since perfect and complete acts are needed for a perfect being who does not know how to do incomplete acts, in order to give him honor and satisfaction. Only in my will the creature find these perfect and complete acts. Outside of my will, no matter how good her acts may be, they will always be imperfect and incomplete, since the creature needs subsequent acts in order to perfect and complete a work, if she manages at all. Therefore, all that the creature does outside of my will is looked on me as a trifle. So may my will be your life, your rule, your all. In this way, in closing my will, you will be in me and I in you. And you'll be careful not to say ever again that I put you out of my heart. October 29th, 1921, Volume 13, Meaning and Effects of the 3 Hours of Imprisonment of Jesus. I spent last night in vigil. My mind would often fly to my Jesus who was bound in prison. I wanted to cling to those knees which staggered for the painful and cruel position in which the enemies had tied him. I wanted to clean him of the spit with which he was smeared. But while I was thinking of this, my sweet Jesus, my life, made himself seen as though within thick darkness, through which I could barely see his adorable person. And sighing, he told me, "Daughter, the enemies left me alone in prison, horribly bound and in the dark. Everything around me was thick darkness. Oh, how this darkness afflicted me. My clothes were wet from the filthy waters of the stream. I could smell the stench of the prison and of the spit with which I was smeared. My hair was disheveled, without a pitying hand which would remove it from my eyes and from my mouth. My hands were bound by chains, and the darkness did not allow me to see my state, alas, too painful and humiliating. Oh, how many things did my state, so painful, tell in this prison. I remained in prison for 3 hours. With this I wanted to rehabilitate the 3 ages of the world, that of the law of nature, that of written law, and that of the law of grace. I wanted to release all, reuniting them all together, and give them freedom as children of mine. By being there 3 hours, I wanted to rehabilitate the 3 ages of man, childhood, youth, and old age. I wanted to rehabilitate him when he sins out of passion, out of his will, and out of obstinacy. Oh, how the obscurity I saw around me made me feel the thick darkness which sin produces in man. Oh, how I cried over him, saying, "Oh, man, your sins have thrown me into this thick darkness, and I suffer it to give you light. Your evils have smeared me like this, and their darkness is such that I cannot even see them. Look at me. I am the image of your sins. If you want to know them, look at them in me." However, know that on the last hour I spent in prison, the dawn broke, and a few glimmers of light entered through the fissures. Oh, how my heart breathed in being able to see my painful state. This signified man, when, tired from the night of sin, receives grace, which surrounds him like the dawn, sending him glimmers of light in order to call him back. So my heart heaved a sigh of relief, and in this dawn I saw you, my beloved prisoner, whom my love was going to bind in this state, and you would not leave me alone in the darkness of the prison. Waiting for the dawn at my feet and following my sighs, you would cry with me over the night of man. This relieved me, and I offered my imprisonment to give you the grace to follow me. But this prison and this darkness contained another meaning. This was my long staying in the prison of the tabernacles, the loneliness in which I am left, such that many times I have no one to whom to say a word and send a gaze of love. Other times I feel in the holy host the impressions of unworthy touches, the stench of rotten and muddy hands, and there is no one who touches me with pure hands and perfumes me with his love. And how many times human ingratitude leaves me in darkness, without even the miserable light of a lamp. Therefore my imprisonment continues and will still continue, and since both of us are prisoners, you prisoner in bed only for love of me, I prisoner for you, with my love I want to bind all creatures with the chains that keep me bound. In this way we will keep each other company, and you will help me to extend the chains in order to bind all hearts to my love. After this I thought to myself, how few are the things that are known about Jesus, while he has done so much. Why did they speak so little about all that my Jesus did and suffered? And Jesus, coming back, added, "My daughter, everyone is stingy with me, even the good. How much stinginess they have toward me, how many restrictions, how many things they do not manifest of that which I tell them and which they comprehend about me. And you, how many times are you not stingy with me? Each time you either do not write what I tell you or do not manifest it, it is an act of stinginess toward me, because each additional knowledge that one acquires about me is one more glory, one more love that I receive from creatures. Therefore be attentive and more generous with me, and I will be more generous with you." October 29th, 1926, Volume 20. How in all created things God centralized his love toward man. Outpouring of love in creating him, and how the Fiat made him live in the reflections of his Creator. I was continuing my round in all creation in order to follow each act of the supreme will in each created thing, and my always lovable Jesus came out from within my interior to accompany me through the whole space of the vault of the heavens. And as we reached each created thing, Jesus gave starts of joy and of love. Then pausing, he told me, "My daughter, I created the heavens, and I centralized my love for man in the heavens. And in order to give him greater delight, I studded them with stars. I did not love the heavens, but man in the heavens, and for him I created them. How strong and great was my love in extending this azure vault above the head of man, adorned with most refulgent stars, like a pavilion for him, such that neither kings nor emperors can have one like it. But I did not content myself with centralizing my love for man in the heavens, that were to serve him as pure delight. Wanting to delight in love with him, I wanted to create the sun, centralizing so much love for man in the sun. I loved man in the sun, not the sun, and therefore I placed in it love of necessity, because the sun was necessary for the earth, having to serve the plants and the well-being of man. Love of light, that was to illuminate him. Love of fire, that was to warm him, and all the effects that this sphere produces that are innumerable, a continuous miracle placed in the vault of the heavens that descends with its light for the good of all. I centralized so many specialties of love toward man and the sun, for as many goods and effects as it produces. Oh, if the creature at least paid attention to my love that the sun brings to her, how happy I would feel, and repaid of the great love I placed in this divine relator of mine, and bearer of my love and of my light. While my supreme will operated, constituting itself life of each created thing in order to give itself as life to the human generations also through them, my love, making its way in my eternal Fiat, centralized itself to love man. So, in each created thing, in the wind, in the sea, in the little flower, in the little bird that sings, in everything I centralized my love, so that all things might bring him love. But in order to hear, comprehend, and receive this, my language of love, man was supposed to love me. Otherwise all creation would remain as though mute and lifeless for him. Now, after I created everything, I formed the nature of man with my own creative hands, and as I formed the bones, extended the nerves, formed the heart, so did I centralize my love. And after I clothed him with flesh, forming as though the most beautiful statue that no other artisan could ever make, I looked at him, and I loved him so much that, unable to contain my love, it overflowed, and breathing on him, I infused life in him. But we were not content. In an excess of love, the sacrosanct Trinity wanted to endow him, giving him intellect, memory, and will, and according to his capacity of creature, we enriched him with all the particles of our divine being. The whole of the divinity was intent on loving man and on pouring itself into him. From the very first instant of his life, he felt all the strength of our love, and from the depth of his heart he expressed, with his own voice, love for his Creator. Oh, how happy we felt in hearing our work, the statue made by us, speaking, loving us, and with perfect love. It was the reflection of our love that came out of him. This love had not been contaminated by his will, and therefore his love was perfect, because he possessed the fullness of our love. Until then, of all the things created by us, not one thing had said to us that it loved us. Now, in hearing that man loved us, our joy, our contentment was so great that as the fulfillment of our feast, we constituted him king of all the universe and the most beautiful jewel of our creative hands. How beautiful man was in the first times of his creation! He was our reflection, and these reflections gave him so much beauty as to enrapture our love and render him perfect in all of his acts. Perfect was the glory he gave to his Creator, perfect his adoration, his love, his works. His voice was so harmonious as to resound in the whole creation, because he possessed the divine harmony, and the harmony of that Fiat that had given him life. Everything was order in him, because our will brought him the order of his Creator. It rendered him happy, and made him grow in our likeness, and according to our words, let us make man in our image and likeness. Each one of his acts, done in the unity of the light of the supreme Fiat, was a tint of divine beauty that he acquired. Each word of his was one more harmonious note that resounded. Everything was love in him. In everything he sang the praises of our glory, of our power, and infinite wisdom. And everything, heavens, sun, and earth, brought him the joys, the happiness, and the love of he who had created him. If you could form a statue the way you liked the best, and then you poured yourself all into it, giving it all the vital humors, and with the empire of your love you gave life to it, how much would you not love it? And how much would you not want to have it love you? What would your jealousy of love be, so that the whole of it would remain at your disposal, and such that you would not tolerate even one heartbeat that would be not done for you? Ah, in your statue you would look at yourself, and therefore at every little thing not done for you, you would feel a tearing made to your very self. So I am. Everything that the creature does not do for me are tearings that I feel, more so since the earth that sustains her is mine, the sun that illuminates her and warms her is mine, the water that she drinks, the food that she takes are mine. Everything is mine. She lives at my expense, and while I give her everything, she, the beautiful statue, is not for me. What must my sorrow be then, and the affront and the offense that this statue gives me? Think about it yourself, my daughter. Now you must know that my will alone can give me back my statue, beautiful just as I made it, because my will is the preserver of all our works and the bearer of all our reflections, in such a way that the soul lives of our reflections, that if she loves, administer to her the perfection of our love, if she works, the perfection of our works. In sum, everything she does is perfect in her, and this perfection gives her so many tints of different beauties as to enamor the Maker who formed her. This is why I love so much that the supreme Fiat be known and form its kingdom in the midst of the human generations, to establish between Creator and creature, and to return to place our goods in common with her. And our will alone has this power. Without it, there cannot be much good, nor can our statue return to us, as beautiful as it came out of our creative hands. End of October 29th. Fiat.